starting at 9:30, 9:35. So our presentations that will conclude at 2 o'clock in the morning. So we'll finish this by 9:55. And I think, as we discussed yesterday, it will be nice to know the questions that you had in your mind which could not be answered. And we'll see whether there are possibilities still of addressing them, and if not, then in the next edition of this course, that will be there. My hope also is that an inquiry of this kind will involve a lot of digestion of data and findings, which I will send you a set of papers, or as what we will do is that I'll get a CD put together of a lot of papers, and that CD will be available probably on Monday, because I'm not here tomorrow. But some of the papers I'll get it sent tomorrow by mail to all of you. Have you brought the questions? Questions which you thought needed to be answered? Yes.
So we have discussed like within this course we have discussed about nature-based societies and market-based societies, and also in some part of the course we have discussed regarding the chenchus in the Nallamala forest area near the Srisailam area, which you were talking about that.
Didn't tell you about that yet.
Yeah. So like as far as I know, those were the nature-based societies, chenchus in those forest areas, and coincidentally, I'm doing a study within that area only, in near that place, a place called Achampet.
Beyond Rangireddy district, or
I am doing in Achampet district, just after the borders of the Nallamala forest area. So
not Srisailam.
Not Srisailam.
Okay.
It is in the Mehboob Nagar district and Achampet.
Mehboob Nagar.
Yeah,
Not Rangireddy, Mehboob Nagar.
Yeah.
Mehboob Nagar.
So like within that field visit, like I have observed some of the things like of the local communities and all, which are like some of the indigenous things are still, there are few things which are they are practicing, but the government policies and all, like they are proposing some other things like forming water user associations and implementing the the nature-based societies which were there are not existent. Most of the things are not existing now. So like after discussing all these things, like are there any ways, like can we shift back to those nature-based societies instead of market-based societies? Like if you see for example, like in the indigenous things, their cropping pattern was based upon their soil and availability of water and all those things. But now it is only a market-based. Everything is based to shifted to only to the paddy. Other than like if you see the indigenous crops which they have grown in the earlier times, it was a cropping pattern was a mix of various things which has been lost now. So how can we shift back to those indigenous things? Like what are the various ways in which we can take steps?
First of all, avoid the use of the phrase shift back. The moment you use this phrase, people think we are becoming backward. The back, I mean, just as we go forward, we can go backward. There is nothing wrong with that, We take a step forward, we can just take backward, nothing wrong. But somehow the mindset behaves differently, that you are not trying to help progress. You are trying to take society back. And I say always that no, that is a forward thing actually. It is not backward. To be in sync with nature is not backward. But let me tell you something which happened in Bastar Shodhyatra. We were sitting under a tree, and that was the last day. We had gone through a very hard time day before because SP was not letting us continue the Shodhyatra. So we had a lot of problem. But somehow we got over that problem and we started and reached this village. And we were talking about, we noticed something on the trees. So we asked, when you prune the trees, there seems to be some strange pattern here. He said, of course. We prune them 1 year from one side, another year from another side. I had never heard of that pruning practice. But we could see the trees having been pruned. Then we said, but what is the logic? He said, logic? Men have head above the shoulders. The trees have their head below the ground. Do you cut the head? You don't cut the head. So the notion of cutting tree to us is like cutting the head. Why do we need to cut the trees? You prune them. And when I was amazed, I was very impressed by this remark. He repeated a few times. And as we discussed yesterday, the metaphor of head below the ground was almost topsy-turvy, But he thought that we will understand with that metaphor better than normal saying that we don't cut the tree. But there are a lot of approaches like biological pest control, for instance, and agriculture has shown that when you have diversity of the cropping systems, you have less pest attack. And when you have the same crop time and again in the soil, you have more pest attack. If you grow alternative host around the crop, then the pest will attack those host and not the crop. So in cotton, I think I mentioned, if you grow lady's finger around the cotton field, lady's finger belongs to the same family as cotton, and the flower of lady's finger is same as cotton, very similar, same color, yellow. So the insects get hoodwinked. They believe this is what we need to come eat, and actually they attack lady's finger and leave the cotton crop. That's a very sustainable way. So when we went to the children of the people who had committed suicide in Wardha and Yavatmal and Chandrapur in Maharashtra, I asked this question. What do you do? So they brought out some pesticide and they said, this is what we use. Of course they were growing BT cotton. But nobody had told them that there were a lot of low cost or no cost methods. Akada, Calotropis, you grow on the side, it attracts aphids attract ladybird beetle attack the pest. So people have these cycles in their mind. We have recorded that. We have a lot of database. If you go to sashi.org and select and go to database, honeybee database, you can search pest and you will find a lot of such practices. But these practices, there is no market for it. There is no consistency. So for many people, this is part of future. It's not tradition, it's future, because they have never seen that. So far as the cycles are concerned, the logic of the traditional system was that you have deep root crop and you have shallow root crop. Alternate. For example, pigeon pea is a deep root crop. Sorghum is a shallow root crop. So one of the system in Karnataka is you grow 2 rows of sorghum and then pigeon pea and then 2 rows of sorghum. So pigeon pea takes roots, nutrient from the deeper layer, sorghum from shallow layer. So nutrient flow takes place. And the leaves of pigeon pea, when they fall on the ground, they provide the nutrients to the soil which were at the deeper layer. So they have been recycled and brought on the top. Correct? Which sorghum roots need. So progressively, nutrient flow is taking place from deeper layer to the upper layer. But if you don't grow such plants, which are of different root length, root depth, that doesn't happen. जो अपन गहरी जड़ के और हल्की जड़ के पौधे उगाते हैं, तो जो तुर दाल है उसकी जड़ तो नीचे जाती है ना भाई, और sorghum इसकी ज्वार की बाजरे की तो छोटी है, ऊपर रहती है. तो जो तुर दाल की जड़ है वो नीचे से लाएगी ना न्यूट्रिएंट, और जाके ऊपर सॉइल में जब दे देगी, जब उसकी पत्ती गिरेगी तो उसकी पत्ती में जो तत्व जमीन के नीचे था वो ऊपर आ गया ना, फिर वो sorghum को, तो ज्वार को मिल जाएगा, बाजरे को मिल जाएगा. So this system has existed and is useful, functionally viable. Yeah, you had some other question.
You were taking now we are about we have a database to solve these problems, but there is no market for this. So how to encourage that kind of market so that this can be practiced?
Very good question. One thing is that we need to try something ourselves. So in my house, if tomato has leaf curl, I put milk on it. Because milk is a good way to control viral problem. I earn the right then to tell someone that he can try this. So I think the authenticity is the first condition in communication. You remember that story of Gandhiji, which is very famous. Many people have attributed to different people, but Gandhiji also used that story. A lady came and said that, look, my son eats a lot of jaggery. Just tell him that jaggery is not good. So Gandhiji said, please come after 15 days. So after 15 days, she came, he put hand on that boy, said, beta, zyada gud nahi khana chahiye, daant kharab ho jate hain, pet bhi kharab hota hai. And that's it. So lady was very unhappy, she was very angry. इतना ही कहना था तो मुझे दोबारा क्यों बुलाया? पहले नहीं बोल सकते थे? तो बोला पहले मैं खुद खाता था. Now the boy wouldn't know that he was eating at the time, right? But that moral strength doesn't come. That is the crux of the matter. And you see, nobody knew, nobody would know if he didn't tell it. Why did he tell it then? Because you have a critic inside us who take away that energy which is required to make authentic communication. So I think first thing we must do is that if we want to communicate these messages, we must practice them whatever scale ourselves. हमको खुद पहले उसका अभ्यास करना चाहिए अपने घरों में. अब पुरुषोत्तम तो डजन प्रैक्टिस इन उसके खेत में तो नहीं करता है वो प्रयोग, वो तो सब गलत काम करता है. और रमेश भी ऐसे ही उसके खेत में नहीं करता है प्रयोग ज्यादातर, कि नहीं करता है ना भाई. तो अब वो कैसे कहेगा किसी को? उसकी बात कौन मानेगा? नहीं मानेगा ना कोई इसकी बात को. तो कम से कम घर वालों से वो बहस करे कि यार मुझे 1 बीघा जमीन 2 बीघा मेरे हिस्से की कुछ तो दे दो, जिसमें अगर नुकसान होगा तो मैं उठाऊंगा, और अगर आपको चाहिए तो मैं अपनी तनख्वाह दे दूंगा जितना नुकसान होगा. मुझे करने दो प्रयोग. नहीं हो सकता क्या? तुम कर रहे हो, ठीक है. तो कुछ प्रयोग अगर कर रहे हो तो तुमको हक है कहने का, नहीं करोगे तो नहीं हक है. मेरा मतलब ये है पहली बात. मतलब दिस सीम्स archaic way of saying this, but I believe in this method because authenticity does not come without this. Secondly is we will have to do experiments because we should never communicate it as a technology, we should communicate it as a hypothesis. I wrote a paper in 88, Transferring Science for Development and Diffusion of Technology. We transfer the scientific principle, people will develop technology. The scientific principle is that there are alternative hosts. In some place lady's finger, some place something else. We must find those alternative hosts so that we can reduce the pressure on the crop. So we should transfer not when the wheat crop should be sown as 3rd week of November or 2nd week of November. No. What temperature and humidity should be there for chickpea to be sown or mustard to be sown. Mustard and chickpea are चना और सरसों दो बहुत कम समय में बोई जाती हैं और बड़ी सेंसिटिव है. इसके समय बहुत कम होता है बोने का. गेहूं को आप जनवरी तक बो सकते हैं, चना सरसों 15-20 दिन होते हैं इसके लिए. क्यों? दे आर वेरी थर्मो सेंसिटिव, बड़ा टेम्परेचर सेंसिटिव है. सो व्हाट इज द बेस्ट टाइम? द टाइम इज व्हेन यू हैव टू कवर योर बॉडी विद अ स्लाइट शीट, अ थिक शीट ऑफ क्लॉथ इन द नाइट. दैट इज द राइट टाइम. जब रात को खेस ओढ़ना पड़े तब आ गया टाइम चने के बोने का. इसका मतलब ठंड नहीं आई अभी,